I got the technical going. All right, Ms. Sumter, I'll let you start it off with the recreation project update.
Thank you. Had a chance to present a few memos here just to give you some ideas of some things I wanted to clarify. First thing had to do with use of funds from the American Rescue Act, and I've indicated here attached see an email from our financial auditors regarding the American Rescue Plan and expenditures for incomplete projects. As stated, the expenditure of funds by the 2026 determines whether there is a potential to have to return amounts to the U.S. Treasury rather than the completion of projects from the American Rescue Plan Fund. If all the funds are fully expended, there is no federal consequences for not completing projects identified within the plan. So one of the big concerns I had, when we go to prepare and we actually submit expenditures that we've identified for existing projects, one of the questions that comes up is that project complete? And you answer either yes or no, depending on where you're at with a particular project. My concern was if we didn't complete a project that we would have to rebate the funds to the U.S. Treasury. Based on this communication from our financial auditors that indicated that that's not a requirement. So we can use the funds and not complete a project, and the funds that we utilize still qualify in terms of the federal use of those funds. So I don't know if you have any questions about that, but I wanted to make certain that we didn't get in a scenario where we've already expended funds, like for example on the rest stop. We don't complete that project. The concern would be, that I had, was would we have to effectively rebate those funds that we use back to the federal government? And based on the communication here from our financial auditors, the answer is no, that they still qualify for that use and would not require us to return those funds to the federal government.
As long as it's allocated, is that?
As long as it's allocated, as long as it's spent. It's got to be allocated by 2024, and it has to be spent by 2026. So you've met the requirement in terms of the allocation because, of course, the budget that you passed, included those amounts to fully utilize those funds. However, obviously, they haven't been spent at this point in time.
Has to be spent, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. By 2026.
December 2026 or is it mid-year?
December of 2026.
I thank you for putting this in our package. I do. And I followed up myself. I noticed that by 2024, we would have to identify the use of how we're going to use that, everything, right? If we do not want to have any funds returned, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you get a chance to follow up with, I know that a proposal was sent in about how we're going to use our American Rescue Plan funds in these projects that you identified. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. The Rest Stop project is in here as it is.
Yes.
I did some research, and I'm going to ask that the council consider this research. I'm blessed, know someone very well in IRS, and I also know 2 Congress people that I made contact with. I understand that we can have these funds reallocated. It does not have to be this project, but as long as these monies are spent.
Yes.
And one of the concerns I have, and that has caused a big concern in this community, is the fact that the relationship in our county has become, and that's one reason why we say at least let's table it to see what can be done. We table that because we saw the diversity of the divide that this between the golf course, which the groups And you did. In 2022, this group made that decision, and at the time, everybody was okay. I can say that I can't say I was a part of it, but because I'm on council now, but that vote was already taken. So I'm not gonna spill over that. But between October of 2022 and as of now, this community has been in a great divide on not having what we call adequate and also additional recreation for those persons who may not elect to play golf or who may not be interested in playing golf. We tabled that because we saw the concern of the citizens. Would like for us to look at considering, and if you are able to make contact with these accountants or whatever, or I understand that this council can ask ours, and Mr. Marlboro is not here, we can ask our congressperson that we resubmitted our proposal and say we want to change that portion of our project in order to look at another type recreation. If it could include that building and not tear it down. We decided we weren't tear it down, see how those funds could be allocated to make another type recreation. I'm not asking something that of this council that maybe you hadn't had a chance to think about it, but I do know that by 2024 we have to decide on that project. It looks like we may be stuck on not making a decision if we stand where we are. We can't afford to stand where we are, and we can't afford to give money back. But I do understand that we can have those funds resubmitted in another proposal and still allocate our monies and still have a relationship with the people in this county. What's your thoughts on that, sir?
I'm confident that you could reallocate the funds. Obviously, the funds that have already been expended.
Right. Can't take those back.
We can't recall those.
Right.
That's already taken place. Plus, we've already submitted the report that was due March 31, 2023. And of course, we submitted that report timely. So anything that has been reported stays the way it is in terms of the expenditures.
And that's a broad report that we submitted, right? And it went in under the auspices of recreation, right?
We identified recreation as the, in fact, let me look at that report again to see what the specific title was for each one. Because, like, for example, we had, okay, the rest stop, aid to tourism, travel, or hospitality. That's the category.
And we chose that category twice, though. See,
The
that's
next category is Marlboro County Golf and Recreation Complex, aid to tourism, travel, or hospitality.
see,
So
you
that's the same
chose
category.
that's the same category.
Same category. Then we had, let's see, we had expenditures associated with protective, this is upgrade technology infrastructure, and that had to do with public health, negative economic impact, public sector capacity. And that was a category for technology upgrades.
And before you go any further, what type of technology upgrade did we do? Did that include broadband, or what did it include?
It was only about $26,000, so I'm guessing it's some type of, and I don't have the report in front of me, but we did purchase servers and other devices in order to upgrade our system-wide, our network technology. I'm not sure what the $26,000 was. It was about $300,000 budgeted for that category. So this would have just been some of the initial purchases. And as you can see, the completion date, the completion is less than 50%.
See, let me tell you why I'm bringing this up, because I do know that one of the initiatives that the former administrators talked about was upgrading broadband.
Right.
During COVID, we did not have broadband at capacity here. We had a lot of what we call red and yellow areas, and we had, when the students were out of school, they could not connect. Marlboro County was one of those areas that had maybe at that time 32% Wi-Fi connections. Then the broadband service was supposed to at least bring us up to at least 52%. The only reason I know that because I went to a workshop online, encouraged your former administrator to come to the workshop. He wasn't able to come, but that workshop shows just how much broadband service, and I thought that Marlboro County elected to use those COVID funds to make sure that we get more broadband.
Well, I know that Sand Hills had utilized their own pot of relief funding to address, to increase broadband within the county. So these are things that we've done internally at the county, not necessarily externally.
Right, I know Sand Hill, but Sand Hill is not the county government. I know county should have had funds to do
They
broadband.
did utilize that rescue plan funding for expanding broadband within the county.
So you're saying that we bought,
We didn't provide them with money.
no, I know that.
They had their allocation.
Yeah, I know, they had, I think it was $5 or $6 million to go through the county to do their broadband with. But you're saying that we took $26,000 of the rescue money to purchase internal servers or equipment
Devices.
like that.
And this is just a preliminary because the whole project is about $300,000. That's what was allocated.
And the project, what is the project? I mean, I'm not familiar with the internal broadband project for $300,000.
It was new network devices.
I
don't know,
remember
I wish
discussing that.
our technology director was here right now. Unfortunately, he's having to deal with
Can any
outage, but
can any council member refresh my memory on a meeting we had discussing internal broadband purchases, a project for $300,000?
Well, we all probably know that the former administrator kept so much stuff close to the vest, and we be putting Ms. Sumter and Mr. West in a awkward position. No. I was talking in general that a lot of the stuff that were done in jest or in past, Mr. Bunley probably kept a lot of stuff to himself. And they probably, it may or may not be, which it probably may not be unaware of a lot of things, but I think that there'd be something that, being that we got a new slate, that we might need to look into as a whole. Let them start investigating and see where we at, where we can go from here. Because what was in the past, like Mr. West said, what's in the past is in the past. What we need to do, worry about now is, can we go from right now to increase the broadband with the money instead of worrying about what Mr. Munley done or did not do in the past?
It's not that for me, Mr. Councilman. For me, is if it's a $300,000 project and we're looking other places to get $300,000 and we haven't approved the $300,000, then that's $300,000 that can go back. I don't mind when you talk about $26,000 out of 4 or 5 million, that's not a lot of money.
Right.
But when you talk about 300,000 that hasn't come through the board, then
So
that's
that was
something that you need to talk
actually in the
to.
prior year budget, not the 22, 23. I believe that was a 21, 22 budget.
I just want to see where we approved that project, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall right off, we've had so many meetings and so much stuff, so if y'all could just get us an update on what that was and what it was, I think that'd
And I think
suffice.
it's
That's
actually
it.
close to being complete right at this point in time.
It's what, 50%?
It's close to complete at this point in
I
time.
thought you said it was 50%.
Now,
This is money
the
spent now.
report, there's a category, it's either completed or it's less than 50%.
Okay.
And that's as of March 31st. The next category had to do with premium pay, and if you remember, these were payments issued to essential workers. and that cost, I mean, it's $526,000 that was expended there. Then we had personal protective equipment, and of course, this has to do with EMS. We spent about $282,000. Then, let's see, the last category, okay, this had to do with some modifications to existing buildings. There was a mortuary that was constructed for the county, and we spent, it's like $14,000. The whole project was about $25,000.
Mr. Parker, to Mr. Truman's thing, just technology now, I could be wrong. Seems like whenever COVID happened, we didn't have enough of some resource computers to meet the demand or to take care. There he is now. Seemed like we did have something right?
See, we're gonna
The more I think about it.
call on you now.
I just want to see where it is.
The
We
project,
discussed it on the
technology
program.
project is associated with the rescue.
I know we did the rescue.
We're close to being complete with that, but
Well, I would say I'm close enough not to have all the equipment in before we start the build. Primary goal is what we have now. Everything is splintered. They're on a separate domain. 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 There's no way to centrally monitor or fix anything. You have to physically either go out there or you have to have other programs to make it work. So in other words, we have no uniformity across the board when it comes to security. We have no uniformity across the board as far as passwords are concerned, as far as all that's concerned. So what my project idea was to build a data center, take everything, bring it back to here. And when I say bring it back here, I mean feed everybody back there. They will still have their own connections at each location, except we will have one domain with one set of rules across the board for everybody. Everybody will have their own logins, and we'll still do the email through Columbia. We won't take that over or nothing. But what it's going to do is it's going to create 10 or 15 times the amount of speed. It's going to do hundreds and hundreds of times more reliability as far as what's across the board, because the newest server that we have out there is 2012. So you've gotten good 10, 12 years over what you should have on. So where they could go at any moment. But anyway, the whole idea is to bring it in there, create virtual environments. We're going to have probably 4 sets of backups to pull from and 2 sets of locations to pull from. So if anything has happened as far as backups go, as far as anything, I can do up to minute, I can do up to quarter hour, I can do up to 12 hours or 24 hours. And then there's a final archive that will be on the backside that I can do back to the beginning. So it's, number one, it's going from 200 gig across the network to 1 gig, or excuse me, 200 meg across the network to 1 gig, which is 1,000 meg, if that gives you any indication. But the biggest thing is storage, creating the file server so that every single one of our departments will have their own folders so they can put stuff in with permissions and stuff like that, so that only they can see their stuff, and it is backed up on all of our machines as opposed to just being locally on theirs, because what they have, the solution is almost non-existent right now.
And when did you get here?
I got here January of last year.
Of 2022?
Yes.
So this was not the plan in 2021? This is your plan that you're bringing now, right?
Right.
So the $300,000 that was approved in 2021, where's that fall in line?
That's this, that we're,
So
you gotta understand
2021
everything is.
So we
almost a year out.
approved, wait a minute, let me get this straight. We approved a plan in 2021 that we did not have until you got here in 2022.
No, I don't know where you're coming up with 2021 from.
That's what he just said. He said that the budget, the $300,000 was approved in 2021 for doing COVID.
It was during COVID, because
Yeah, during
everybody
COVID.
had
I wasn't
COVID.
here.
Yeah, you wasn't here during COVID. That's what I'm saying. That's all. That's all I needed to understand. I'm trying to get in my head the
Oh,
time frame.
absolutely.
and how
One
we
of
just,
the
how we
things that
just,
I was tasked with when I came in here was to evaluate
right.
every single.
And it sounds
piece
like
of
a good plan, that it really, I don't have any issue with upgrading, I really don't. Only thing I wanna know is when did we discuss it as a board, and when we're approved, that's all. Yeah, cause I do agree
I don't
with
have
that.
that information, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not asking you, I was asking.
No, I know, it's all good, but if you guys have any more questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah.
I have a question. Then.
Okay.
Tell us about the broadband service now. What type broadband service do we have?
As far as the
How-
type or what, the number or what?
Right. Where are we in Marlboro County with our broadband service?
Every single one of our locations has broadband, at least 100 meg. Is that what you were asking?
Through the county. that's
Through the-
what he knows.
Okay.
My apologies, I don't understand exactly what you're asking.
That's more of a sand
That may be that,
Yeah.
but the director's able to tell us, go on website and you can go in and see how much Marlboro County, what's yellow, what's red, and what's black. If
Yeah,
it-
but that has no concern to me whatsoever.
Well, it may not have any concern to you, but I'm just saying, I know, and I'm hoping that you will connect with them so you'll be able to know how much internet service that we're having, because in these areas like Blenheim and parts of even Bennettsville, they can't even get connected. You can get connected here, but if you go a certain part out of this area, we can't get connected in ours.
Right, but man, that has nothing to do with me.
I do understand that.
Okay, you're asking me a question
And
that I
I'll take
can't
it.
answer because it really has nothing to do with me.
I will take that back, okay?
Okay. But as far as anything to the network, I'm more than glad to give you any information.
Yes, Susan?
And are you gonna train these people?
Absolutely.
Okay. For every department, you will be training them on how to.
The only difference that's gonna be when the new system goes in is those who weren't logging in with a username and password will have to log in with a username and password. Other than that, there will be no difference.
I just want to be sure that you will be the one training these
Oh,
people.
absolutely.
And we're not contracting out.
No,
Okay.
no.
We do need to get back on focus on recreation, but go ahead.
My apologies, I couldn't answer the other question, but
Thank
I
you.
may be able to answer your question about broadband in the county. I've lived where I am for 20-something years, never could get through Sand Hills, even after the county helped them get those grant funds. Spectrum came here a few months ago. Council approved their franchise agreement. I sat on my front porch yesterday recording them putting the lines down my road. I'm getting fiber optic broadband service where I live through Spectrum. They're getting out towards Tatum, off of Mount Zion Church Road hard. I understand I saw them Saturday, they're coming down East Main Street hard. I spoke with someone else who said they live in Blenheim and they're getting their hard. Spectrum is getting harder. My husband was told today that we will have internet service within the next couple months. So Spectrum is the one that's really bringing it home. There's going to be a lot of trouble in Marlboro County out of that question because we're getting it.
Thank you for that comment, Ms. Rivers. But I do know council just did the first reading with Spectrum. We didn't do second and third reading with Spectrum.
We had a franchise agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, that allowed them to come in. Well, if you have the franchise agreement, that allows them to come in
Okay.
to do that.
Thank you.
I got one last one, I'll just go over this briefly and then y'all can, of course, enter into your discussion. This has to do with, I've attached some emails from Debbie Jordan she's a grants coordinator with Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. The email provides information on grant funding cycles, for the three programs that her office is managing. Of immediate interest is the Land and Water Conservation Grant, which opens in August of 2023. The grant cycle is every other year. The maximum grant is between $300,000 and $500,000, depending on the application submitted. The maximum of the Land and Water Conservation Grant is designed to provide funding for outdoor recreation. The project match is 50%. Legislative appropriations earmark fundings can be used as match for the land and water conservation grant. The county has received that funding in the past for Lindsay Park, Bennett Park, and Wallace Park. The last time Marlboro County applied was 1983. The grant was awarded in 1984. All land and water conservation grant projects require deed restrictions, designating a lifetime in perpetuity for outdoor recreation use for the property receiving funding. If there's interest on the behalf of the county council to apply for this funding, a preliminary application must be submitted August 8, 2023. That will require county council to authorize the submission of the preliminary application of the grant at the July 11th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting. Qualifying grant expenditures include, among other expenses, lighting, restrooms, shelters, and playground and recreational equipment. I thought this would be important information to discuss at this point in time, because obviously, if there is interest, and I've attached a copy of the application. Of course, this is another memo where Darius and myself met with Debbie Jordan from PRT, and she did an inspection of these three facilities, and I've included a copy of that report. There were no compliance issues. There were just some, I think there's some posting of some signage that was required. They actually had the signage prepared for us, and that's already been posted at this point in time. But I'm thinking if there's interest in pursuing additional funding, it will be a way of being able to make the funding from the legislative delegation go further by being able to make application of grant and create $1 million project for $500,000.
Question.
Yes.
Can it be amended to include Briceville Park? Because those, you didn't include it.
Any of the parks owned by the county.
Yeah, because you only mentioned,
Well, those are the parks that actually have the existing deed restriction that's a requirement of the Land and Water Conservation Grant. So as a part of, when you receive that funding, you have to assure the federal government, the Department of the Interior, that you are going to utilize that property forever
Right.
as recreation.
Right.
So one of the concerns is whenever you accept funding like that, you want to make certain that there's not going to be a potential for conversion. Because that's one of the things that she talked a bit about. I think she had stated that they've gone to different locations and they found that there was, some modification done, whether or not it was.
And there could be penalties for conversions if there's things added to the properties. She told us about where the county had sold to the Dollar General, where was the Dollar General building on the property, and there's penalties involved in converting the property from outdoor recreation use.
so, but as long as it's, Briceville can be included in this grant. That's the bottom line.
Any county-owned property.
Okay.
And of course, it does require deed restrictions. So
Okay.
think about that. If there's a potential of wanting to make some conversion with that property, it would be better to consider other parcels that, the county presently has. But
So it's got to be a property that we definitely want to keep forever.
that's correct.
Right.
I don't see Briceville being moving.
And I do have I know I've got a memo that shows the condition of the existing parks, and then the comments that were made, by PRT. And you can see that there was a re-inspection report. So something that their task in do every 5 years, but it's been,
It's been over 12 years since they've been out to inspect our property. So she went through and did an inspection. One of the few things that she saw was that we didn't have signs posted that those facilities actually received the grant in the past, so we got those signs posted, and we're in compliance.
Oh, good.
those are the only things I have at this point.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. If you could take $500,000 and a $500,000 match, and we get $1 million, I mean, that's sending it further. I mean, so that's making it go a long ways.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Park?
Is there any reason we haven't applied for this grant since 1983?
Well, I think the issue has to do with the fact it requires match. I don't know what source of funding was in place in 1984 that allowed us to basically match existing, the grant. I'm trying to think the last time the county had a significant investment in recreation in terms of facilities. And it's outdoor recreation too, so it would be things like the parks.
So if I'm understanding, 1984 was the last time that Marlboro County did anything recreationally here.
At least in using that grant.
They're using
that
that grant.
And in talking with Debbie Jordan at PRT, they indicate that they typically end up having to send funds back because there's not enough applications that qualify to actually utilize the funds that are provided by the federal government.
She also stated that you can resubmit applications every 2 years. So as long as we have a 50% match every 2 years, we can submit to upgrade those facilities.
How long do you have to spend that $1 million?
Well, the qualifying expenditures are going to be things like lighting, the shelters, restrooms. It would be really easy to spend that, looking at the facilities we have.
I thought we did lighting and everything at Lindsay Park.
We did lighting.
Spent a lot of money
at Lindsay
there.
Park with the general obligation bond. I
Right.
think the concern was if that lighting wasn't done this year, we wouldn't be able to actually utilize those fields because they were, the poles.
The lighting that was done replaced the current lighting that was at Lindsay Park. There were a few poles. There was at least one pole that fell over into the woods, so there's a safety concern of the poles falling over. So there's 5 fields at Lindsay Park. 3 of them are lit. So all 3 of them will be getting new lights. But there's 2 fields that aren't lit at Lindsay Park as well that could use lights.
How many fields need lights in our county, do we know?
How many fields have lights or how many fields
Need
need
lights.
lights? So ideally it would depend on the facilities that we're using. So this year we hosted our softball and baseball season at Lindsay Park. So all of the games were centralized there. We were able to use those 3 fields to kind of knock out all of our games, but we do run into an instance where the sun kind of goes in on us at maybe 7:30, 7:45-ish, and we had double headers scheduled for those games where normally the games would have to be an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. We had to drop them dead in an hour. So it cuts the game short. With that age group, we're talking about 2 to 3 innings at max, where the game normally goes 6 innings. So they're really getting to play half the game because we don't have the lights to support the being there till 8:30 in the evening.
So does Bennett Park and Wallace Park?
So Wallet Bennett Park does have lights in Clio, and Wallace has lights on one of the fields as well, but we aren't spread out to using all of the facilities. It's a manpower thing as well. It's hard to actually have, we don't have the maintenance capabilities to drag and line every field within the county currently with how we're staffed. We have one maintenance guy. It's easier to centralize everything at Lindsay. So we do have one lit field at CW Love as well. The other 3 aren't lit. There are lights at Bennett Park and Clio, and there's at least one lit field in Wallace.
Have you requested, additional help, because it just don't make no sense, you got 5 parks, and you got one man, you got one full-time worker.
Yes, sir. I
What's the
requested to have at least one additional grounds and maintenance.
Yeah, you requested that to who, the past administrator?
Yes, sir.
Is that part of that contract? I know you got something in your budget for contract. Is that part of that contract?
The contracted services were for the mowing of the grass. So they help to mow the parking lot areas of the ball fields as well as some of the outfields of the ball fields. So it's contracted out.
For each field?
Yes, ma'am. It's the contract for the overall county for all of our facilities. Yes, ma'am.
So it's safe to say Marlboro County cares very little about recreation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a rhetorical question. It's not necessarily for us to have since 1984 to apply for this grant. For us to not have improved or build any, new facilities, any new fields, put lighting up. For us to have one contract person to line one field in Marlboro County, and we expect kids to grow in a productive environment. We expect, for us to have the right infrastructure to do anything. That's sad. For us not to know that since 1984, this grant has been here, and people send money back every single year. For you to say that in Marlboro County, I was 5 years old.
You were?
5 years old, barely out of Pampers. And you were talking about 2 or 3 generations on past. 2 or 3 generations on past, and we sit here in Marlboro County like we're doing something. I blame that on all the people who sat in these seats over the years who have not taken a vested interest in the growth of Marlboro County. Shame on us to be just being presented with this information that obviously somebody has known about. This grant just didn't fall out of the sky. Where was it? The information 2 years ago. Where was the information 2 years prior to that? Where was this information 2 years prior to that? 40 years?
I inquired about it in January. You can see my email. This is the first time I reached out to PRT. I had no idea.
40 years.
40 years.
So what do we need to do to finish up these grants? Are we working?
We're going to bring an action for you to approve at the next meeting. We can get busy working on it. There's a consensus that you're going to authorize us to submit, but formally, we'll need that approval at the July meeting. We'll also present a resolution that you'll need to pass and adopt, and Darius and I will work on the project, identifying those specific items that we think are going to be a part of the expenditures for the grant.
So we'll come up with the dollar amount.
We'll come up with a dollar amount. The dollar amount would be $1 million project.
Okay. Well, thank you for looking into that then. I will give you that amount, thank you. So I'll proudly say thank you for somebody looking into that.
Well, this is good news. It's bitter good news, though. It's like Dr. Johnson said, that we did not know about this, and, it's hard to, but it is something to be excited about, so.
When we get into the budget part of the conversation, then we need to talk about this grant writer and putting some funds, I guess, in there to get us a person that looks for grants like this on the regular. Got to put that in a line item somewhere.
Got enough in
Then
there.
we get in,
I mean, that's not a problem.
yeah. We do not have a grant writer or a grant searcher now, right? We do not, right?
So what is Melanie, the one who signed off for this American Rescue Plan? I know Melanie something is signed off on that. What is her role?
Melanie was the grant coordinator.
Okay.
The grant coordinator is the person who just gathers the information after the grant has been submitted and just does the quarterly reporting or whatever reporting that goes along.
I was just surprised to see her name on that American Rescue Plan grant like that. Why is that?
Still training the new person that started in March, so she was more familiar with this grant.
Okay. And the grant coordinator usually be the one that would apply, would sign off for the American Rescue Plan money, all those. And I noticed it said 10 million. Is that, what did that money say in that grant? How much were we supposed to get from the American Rescue Plan?
$5 million.
5. So the counties below a certain amount got a certain amount, right?
Correct.
And we got what?
The way it works is if a county has less than $10 million, they can utilize an exclusion that allows them to use those funds without having those funds fit in the specific categories assigned to the rescue funds. And I think that was one of the challenges when a lot of governmental units received the funding. They thought they really needed to utilize it differently than was allowable. And so the feds went ahead and they did an exclusion for governmental units that receive less than $10 million.
And we actually received how much?
$5 million.
5 million for American Rescue Plan funds. That was our total.
That was our total.
Where did we hear 7 from?
7 is including
The $2 million formal
legislative
delegation.
delegation.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted someone to refresh me where I heard the other 2. Thank you.
Darius, I hate to put you on the spot. Is there anything else you want to give us an update on what's all going on with recreation?
Yeah, so we just finished our baseball, t-ball, softball season. We finished up with our all-star team. Our 12U all-stars, they placed second in the district. They were the runner-ups. We're currently in our basketball registration season as well as evaluation, so we will start practices for basketball in the next week or so, where we'll have our game start. Tentatively, we're looking at the week of July the 10th for the start of the basketball season.
And the game we played where?
I'm sorry?
The game we played where?
So we'll be playing at Playa Elementary as well as down in Blenheim and the primary school here in Vincent. Will be the 3 locations. So in Playa we'll be doing 8U and possibly 10U. In Blenheim we'll be doing, we're offering instructional, so 4 and 5-year-olds this year will get to play basketball as well. So that'll happen at Blenheim. And then we're looking to host our older age group, the 14s and the 12-year-olds at the intermediate school.
Is the floor at Blenheim still jacked up?
So the floor in Blenheim was bandaged. So we were able to get a part of the hump taken out of it. So the floor came up. We were able to see that the original floor that was in the Blenheim gym is warped. They never took out the original floor when he added the current hardwood floor that we had. So there is a moisture barrier that's below the original Blenheim hardwood floor. There's a moisture barrier over it. So any moisture that gets in there just stays in there. It warped to cause the top hardwood floor to buckle. So over the past 7 years, that happened twice. So in the Blenheim gym, if you go to the far end, the lights are, there's maybe a 12 by 10 patch that was done, they said about 5 to 7 years ago. And we just did an even bigger patch on the other end a month ago. But if you go where we originally did the first patch, there's a hump already happening. So I've gotten several quotes on fixing the gym. The lowest price was closer to 90,000. The highest was about 120,000 to tear up both floors and put a new floor down. So we'll be doing the instructional at Blenheim because the flooring, so it currently doesn't have the lines because where they had to take the flooring up, the lines aren't there. So we'll be taping the lines down, and with the instructional play, the court will actually be smaller. We have portable goals that will roll in to the gym. So the playing area will be a lot smaller, and we plan to tape it off.
So we have about roughly $3-4 million left in our recreational plan. And we have a recreational facility, the only rec facility that we claim as a rec facility in the county that has a dilapidated floor. And we chose to spend almost $2 million in a golf course when we have a facility. There's not a dime that has been allocated to the only recreational facility, and I use that very loosely. We haven't allocated a dime. As a council, we haven't talked to our director and said, what do you need? We have a recreational plan, but not one conversation. This is the first time that we've ever addressed our recreational director about a recreational plan, and he's telling us now that we have a floor that we are patching. And as soon as we're patching, we still see where the problem lies. And we're gonna let us continue to just to patch when we have money. It's not like we don't have money for recreation. It's not like we don't have money. So we're gonna continue to let this facility to be used in a dilapidated position and condition when we have the money but we can fix it. Tell me, what sense does that make?
Mr. Williams, who do you bring your issues to?
Who do I address issues to?
Yeah.
Administrative staff.
In the past?
Yes, sir.
So you haven't talked to Ms. Sumter as since Mr. Muller left, correct?
I mean, I have spoken with Ms. Sumter, but not directly. We talked about what happened in the gym and as far as what's going on in the process. I've also told her about some of the pricing in regards to the quotes as well.
So in your capital improvement plan, what the gym included in that?
No, sir.
Why not?
Honestly, I hadn't heard much about the capital improvement.
So you did not do a 5-year plan, capital improvement plan?
No, sir.
John, that might be one of our issues right there. I mean, as a department head, every department head probably been done a 5-year plan. If he was not told to do one, we can't blame him, and because he was totally in the loss. I don't know why it was not done.
Well, I've been doing the investigation and evaluation of our facilities and our parks as well. That's why I kind of understand what's happening with our gym, as well as knowledgeable about the use of our outdoor facilities and the last time we had upgrades and maintenance done to them. Honestly, getting here, that was one of the first things I wanted to do was ride around, see what it is that we have in our inventory and what the condition is. And just looking at our facilities, none of the outdoor recreational facilities have been properly maintained over the years. And that could be a shortage of staff or the investment into those facilities. But if you go to our facilities, we have older fencing that may be outdated and out of spec. Some of it would literally be ragged, to say. So it just appears that throughout the county, we haven't invested much into our recreational facilities throughout the years.
But how can we receive $7 million? We knew we received $7 million, and not one dime of that money goes towards the facilities that we have, that our children are playing on. Not one dime has gone to the facility that our babies are playing on, but we spend $3-4 million in a golf course. Not one dime has gone to the facility that our children run and play on every single day. And this is not the first time we're hearing about this right here, because I brought the issue up about that gym, about recreation, on multiple occasions. So this is not the first time we as council members are hearing about it. We have not allocated not one thin dime to the existing facilities, and we've gotten $7 million fall out of the sky.
Well, there was money allocated to the facility in Blenheim when they installed the air conditioning unit down there. But like I say, with anything else, it is known if you don't use it, you lose it. And so we don't use our facilities accordingly, because lack of staff or whatever the case may be. Before you, the directors was so nonchalant and did not do anything. The first thing everybody want to say was pandemic. Other facilities, other recreation throughout the state were still playing, but Marlboro County, them 2 years, then another 2 years before we even hired anybody. So before Mr. Williams came, we were 2 years without even a recreation director, and we addressed the administrator over and over again, how you can have a department head. You always have, if you cannot have a department head vacant or slot vacant for over 16 months and don't even address it. And Dr. Johnson, myself, and we always was a cheerleader on that issue, but it went on deaf ears. Since you've been back with recreation or in recreation, what conversation have you had with the golf pro? Being that it's a golf complex recreation facility, have you and him had any kind of dialogue?
We have had conversation during our...
As a unit, as a steering committee?
Yes, we've had some preliminary conversation at a meeting. We have leadership meetings normally once a week. We're just kind of talking there. Nothing too deep. Just kind of talk about it. Honestly, I was giving them time to acclimate themselves. They had a few ideas as to what they were doing with the golf course. And I was giving them time to kind of get situated as well as me. I'm still within this, I'm going into my 7th month as well. So we were both getting adjusted to our roles and positions, and didn't want to involve more.
Well, hearing the concerns with all of the things, and you've had a chance to look at all the fields and with the Blenheim gym and everything. I mean, we do have money. We still have money in our ARP fund. So, I mean, I think that's a thing to bring at least a wish list, I guess, or just to fix it back up to par. I mean, to get it back up to par. I mean, the fencing, flooring, whatever our needs are, so we don't let it get away, and we still have things for so many years that we can't fix. So it would be good, I think, for all the council to be able to hear of what the needs are for each field, what could bring them up to where they are, good standing, how old the fences are, what's how bad the fences are. I know bathrooms are, I mean, when Councilman Woods was, there's some of the things are still the same since then. So, and some of the same roofs on some of the dugouts and all. So it would be good to hear everything that is needed. So we'd be able to make a good, decision as far as moving forward with money that we have in the ARP funds.
I want to say that Mr. Williams has done a good job with meeting with the various vendors and going down there to look at I'm familiar with the gym in Blenheim, that he was the one who went out there with them to look at it and listen to what they had to say. And he did bring it back as to the cost. I think they went out there last week or the week before.
Yes, I actually had a vendor come in on Wednesday of last week to go and check it out as well. They were working on something for the academy. I had reached out to them, so they came over and they're going to give me a quote. So there'll be at least 3 quotes that we'll have for the gym floor.
And I was under the impression that we were going to use some on stuff like that in the county in different areas with some of this money we had. And 2, it won't qualify for outdoor stuff, so we need to keep that in mind, so we can spend some of this money on that we can't get anything else. See, so I just want everybody to keep that in mind while we spending some money. We might need to spend a little more there because it won't apply for anything else outdoor.
I think we earmarked $250,000 specific for recreational projects when we decided not to buy the old Carolina Bank. We specifically earmarked $250,000 for recreational projects. Why are we not utilizing the money that we've already allocated towards recreation? We've already made that decision that $250,000 was set specifically for recreation, and we hadn't talked about that or discussed it, since we made that decision. These are
Is there
needs.
money?
Yeah, we said that some.
The earmark for the legislative delegation hasn't been fully allocated.
No, not that money. I'm talking
But
about.
I mean, for the rescue plan, yeah, the $250,000 that were part of the acquisition of the Carolina Bank was designated for
Recreation, that's right, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I didn't know necessarily what the project was gonna be, so that's.
So is that still there?
It's still there.
Yeah, so it's still there, so we do have,
Yeah.
well, it's just that we're not tending to it. We just got to authorize,
A project.
yeah.
Yeah, we gotta determine what the cost is associated with doing the renovations at that particular facility, or if there, I think we do need, as Mr. Blackman stated, we need to address with the outdoor recreation with a grant, so that we've got the match to go with that, so we can stretch.
Right. And the
those
park funds,
dollars
right?
As much as possible.
Are the park funds still available? We have not applied for any of those,
I
right?
don't, that's all part of the request of the legislative delegation. I'm not sure what that request is, and I'm not certain how much those PARD funds are for this particular cycle.
I have a question for Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, you said, how many staff do you have?
In our department, there's 4 of us total.
4?
Yes, ma'am.
So Ms. Sumter, as administrator, is that where these salaries are in this, here, for this budget?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's
It's
what-
under recreation.
I'm looking on the recreation. So those are the 4 salaries.
Yes,
So 4 people's salaries come out of this. And then I asked a question about contract. Contract is what, the field cutting?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do your budget, sir? Do you have input in your budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
One of our concerns as far as recreation is as well as having a home, like we don't have an office and or space to store equipment and supplies either. I heard the concern over tackle football in the community. Over the last week or so, we've been trying to collect and find all of our tackle football equipment. And that has been spread out all over the county. And none of it was under climate control situations. So all of it is likely to be mildew as well as old and molded. Because we don't have anything that would be climate controlled where we are able to store equipment or even having an office.
And where is your office now?
Currently, the recreation department is located in the back of the library. We have a multi-purpose room space where it acts as an office as well as storage. There's no way to close a door and to have a private conversations or to host a meeting. Oftentimes, I have to work off-site. If I'm going to have a Zoom meeting or a call, I have to not be in my office because there isn't an office. We just have a multi-purpose space.
Mr. Chairman, just to address what he's talking right there, we maintain certain facilities around the county that I know right now, and I'm looking at recreation was one of the things that I was looking at trying to move and rehouse, and what would be the perfect location for that. And I made a phone call to you, and you kind of steered me away from that idea. But one of the facilities that we maintain now is the old Plaza building there, right there on the square. Huge building, nothing's in it. It's climate controlled, huge room. It can house recreation and it can house the voter registration problem. Voter registration has the same problem with equipment, but they're under the Homeland Security rules. Some rules apply for them that Homeland Security mandates. The old Plaza building, takes care of that, you know. And it gives recreation enough room, gives him office space, gives him his upstairs
Yeah, his upstairs.
and basement. It gives, you know, everything is there.
I'm not that, I know that building. It,
Well, okay, with that building, and I haven't been in that building the last few years. My understanding is the first floor is fine. There's some problems with the second floor and the basement. Now, I was, when it comes to voter registration, I was called by, Mr. Boynton last week, and we're supposed to get together after he returns on the 24th. He was going on vacation to discuss some possibilities for voter registration.
for the Plaza building.
Right.
How about the administration building in the back? What is it? I do not know what is back there.
There was the concern of mold there before.
Where's that? What are you talking about?
Okay, we have, if you come down the hall, where the conference room is at,
Right.
we have storage space. It's not climate control, okay? The storage space is for the records that have to be maintained up to 65 years, okay? And now when I say up to 65 years, some of them may be less, but I know all of your payroll history has to be up to 65 years. Now, when you come through the double doors, that's the end of anything. Everything is like it was when it was the hospital, many years ago.
It's got a good roof on it though.
I would think so, but, everything else is,
And a lot of the windows, the insulation have been,
the windows and that part have not been done or anything. Right.
Doris, is there what agency's using the Plaza building? Because I keep getting a phone call from somebody that said that Miss Jonikin was over one of those things and she's resigned. And I've been getting a call from the people that work for her.
They're using my understanding, and some of you may know more about it than I do. They went to lose the building, the CDC, and Marlboro County purchased the building, but CDC is in the building. But they also do CDC and another community action.
Family,
That's in there.
They did taxes the last time I saw them. That was last year. They did it.
Yeah, but I think it's defunct now. That whole thing is, all of
They don't
that,
do
that
any of
program is
that now.
defunct.
Now, I have a call from her, and we were going to talk next month, because she's looking to see about downsizing. So, but I want to see where Mr. Boone was talking about first. Like I said,
Yeah, he basically got that idea from me. He and I brainstormed a little bit of where could they go there, but it's the same problem that they have. They just don't have the storage, and there's certain things that voter registration needs to have, and like recreation is the same thing. But if that building, we can put a few funds in that building and bring it up to par, make sure that it's mold and mildew free, then I think that's the solution. Could be a very good solution if we can.
yeah, I think this county has been, I just hate to say it, poorly mismanaged. This county has been poorly mismanaged. Knowing that we need space, we're willing to buy a building and tear it down. Knowing the space that we need in Marlboro County, we was gonna buy a building and tear it down. You can't script stuff like this.
And the sad thing about that, Councilman Johnson, is that we purchased that building with recreation fund. And if you put any type thing else in there besides recreation, we would have to repay those funds.
But the
That's
building
why I
on
put it
Broad
in the
Street,
proposal.
instead of going to the, we could use that as the recreation facility, and along with the game room and everything else, it's big enough.
I'm talking about the voter registration now. His office can move there under registration. Voter registration can't move there.
Well, an engineer's looked at that building on Broad Street. Top to bottom, it's full of asbestos.
No, it's not. I mean,
Flooring.
asbestos is in every building in Marlboro County, and it's only dangerous when you working with it. But that building is not in bad shape. That building is not falling apart. It's not falling down. The floors are not coming up. The walls are not caving in. The roof is not leaking.
There's asbestos in the flooring, there's asbestos in all the piping, and there's asbestos in all the ceiling tile. All that stuff's got to be taken out.
And this building is as well. Asbestos is in this building as well.
Mr. William, you were saying that, we're not trying to do, tackle football. Is that because we don't have no equipment? Is that the main reason why we would play, flag?
No, so last year they tried to host tackle football for the county. We had a team to assemble.
Wait, freeze for a minute. We handled that record last year. We had, so, you know, the guys that were trying to do that, they had no idea what they were doing. I'll call a spade and a heart a heart. That guy that had no knowledge of what he was doing, trying to do tackle football. So don't even try to go back what we tried to do last year, because last 4 years, we had zero. When I say zero, we had zero leadership in recreation. Zero. So everything is on you right now. That's why I'm asking you directly. What is the probability of what can allow Marlboro County to have a football program tackle this year?
Well, we could have a tackle football program.
What you gotta have?
What we need?
What will you have to have? Could you the face?
Equipment. We would need the budget to actually do tackle football. Most of the equipment that we had for tackle football is not going to be.
Correct. I agree with you 100%.
I've been doing the research. We're talking about $175 per helmet, and we're talking $65 per pair of shoulder pads.
So one kid would suit up. How much cost to suit one kid up, roughly?
So we got all brand new equipment, $175 and $65.
Heaven shoulder pad pants and everybody. Per child.
Per child, because we will be starting from scratch. We may have some equipment and some materials. We may be fine, honestly, we may be fine with shoulder pads, because we can possibly clean those off and sanitize those. It's the helmets that we definitely don't have, and they're the most expensive part of the uniform. Right now, the only helmet that will be available is the A11 Schweppes helmet, and that's at the lowest. I found it was $175. I found the same helmet, $205.
No, we all know that when you buy volumes, the price will go down.
Correct. Honestly, I started at 100 helmets.
Okay.
So if I didn't need 100, it may even drop there as well. But that quantity number, I started with 100, so they could give us numbers related to that.
In order to get a budget, I guess, and I'm just wish list kind of. Everybody was saying that we got money allocated through the county. If you can, if the chairman and the rest of the council agree, if you would give us a wish list, what it would take for the blended recreation facilities, gym floor completed, backboards redone or replaced, because then gold's been up there since 1975. You know, and that's all that is a hazard.
Well, we have had there was someone in December to come and stabilize our goals and our rims. When I got here, the first thing I noticed is that the floor was warped and buckled, and that both of the rims were crooked. Like literally, you could look at it and see that they were crooked, and that was a safety issue. We handled that within the first 2 weeks, so I'm confident that the rims are at least secure.
I talking the side goals. The side goals got the wooden goals, and let's say in this day in this generation we in now, if you're gonna do a nice recreation facility, that you want fiberglass backboard all the way around. You want 6, you know, so 6 fiberglass backboards, and the floor, the restrooms, you know, the upgrade, and then the football equipment.
And are you talking about having him put this in this year's budget, sir?
No, we got money already allocated
Okay.
for that. I just will see, you know, what it would cost. With the $250,000 we already allocated for recreation.
And then we'll need a cost to know what project we can go ahead and jump on and get started.
Just get some figures. That's, you know, the big thing. We can't do nothing without figures.
This week if you can.
Okay, I got, honestly, I have some of the figures for the football equipment. I have figures for the gym floors as well.
Okay.
I'll just work on getting some quotes for the goals, the 4 goals.
Okay.
See, this is the kind of stuff that I was saying all along. We should have had an opportunity, in all respect, to hear from department heads as far as all their needs before we even start looking at the budget and see how it could have put us in a position to actually say, tell us, so we can just put it on the table, and then we can see where we can be in the budget. I know I'm not gonna keep saying, I told you so, but if January 1, because January 2 is really my official date, even though I was not sworn in until the 14th, we should have been looking at what we're gonna plan for this budget ever since January. So next year, we're not gonna get behind. I'm hoping that this 2024, 2025 budget, October, I'm gonna be ready to look for that budget.
I had went through the budget process with administration staff, and I had certain acts. I had asked for a certain amount of budget for special events that happen throughout the county as well. That could be back to school bashes, something to celebrate 4th of July, Easter events. We as the county department, I haven't seen us do much of that on a broader scale. We have been a part of what has been done in the past. Maybe we brought a little bit to the table, but I would like to do more of that as far as outreach as well. And that was one of the things that I presented. But unfortunately, that was one of the first things that when we had to trim down the budget, that was one of the first things that went away. I know one of the concerns for the recreation budget was also the uniforms and equipment budget. That budget line item actually is for uniforms, equipment, awards, etc. So I don't think we realized that it was the ETC. So we're ordering all of our trophies and awards. Any banquet that we host to do those trophies and awards, that would all come out of those monies as well. It's not just like the uniforms. That would be a soccer goal. Our soccer goals were broken and we needed to replace that. That would come from that line item as well. Ideally, we maybe need to split that up so that you can see that we're spending this much on uniforms, this much on awards, this much on equipment. But currently, as it's listed, all of those things are together. So that number seemed a little inflated when you think just uniforms. Are they getting the best uniforms? No. I will tell you, I have upped the level and the quality of our uniforms that we have, but they're not the best of the best. They aren't. There's other things that are in that line item as well, and some of those are equipment and awards and banquets as well.
Well, if you could go ahead and get those figures together, and Ms. Sumter, you'll receive them, and maybe work with Wes on the monies that have already been allocated, like the Carolina Bank building money, and then we'll come back together. Well,
If you want, we can just go ahead and assign that $250,000, to those recreation projects now.
well, yeah, let's prioritize it, and then we'll meet back. Maybe we'll have another workshop on down the road after we, see how
I
far
agree
that
with
money
your
goes.
assessment, Mr. Park. If we know that we've already allocated that $250,000 specifically for rec, he's getting his numbers, to present to us. But if we can go ahead and direct, then he can already be on kind of a head
Make a
start.
thing happen.
And one thing, I know we talked about it briefly last council meeting, but reestablishing those local commissions, I think, will do our rec department. It would honestly take a lot of the pressure off the centralized rec department and allow these areas to continue to function, in the manner. Because to be honest about it, you can't do this process without those local areas really and truly being invested in it. And if we can go back to the point where every area, McCall had their own, that fed into the large rec, it's going to take some pressure, because uniforms does, all of those other ancillary stuff does not necessarily need to be taken up by the county rec, when these other areas have been proficient and fluent in doing it for such a long time. I think we need to go back at least to revisit establishing those local recreation commissions that now feed into the county rec that now can alleviate some of these issues. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of people are not happy about having a centralized location, having to play all of the games at Lindsay Park, or having to play all of the games at Prince Recreation, or and that really cuts, into the heart of some of these small towns. That's the only thing they have is their rec program. Clio doesn't have, a middle school team, so the only thing they really had was their rec, team. So now that's been removed, from Blenheim don't necessarily have, because everything has been conglomerated into one. We actually, hurting our kids by not allowing them to have that identity that's feeding into our larger high school athletics and our high school program. There was nothing wrong with that process. And I really do think it'll serve the county great to go back to that process where now a local investment from each city goes into the county rec department as well.
The equipment, though, the problem, you said the problem we had with equipment was it was scattered all out through the county, and it was not maintained. And, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And, I agree with Dr. Johnson about localizing and getting these local communities back, but this equipment, as expensive as it is, we need to find a building somewhere that is climate controlled, that I would feel like, and I would feel more comfortable with you being responsible for the equipment and having it in a central location that we know, like when McCall gets through playing and Clio and Walls and everything, all that equipment's come back in, is checked in, and it's put in places where it's not going to pick up humidity and all that. I mean, we've got a high school out here, a coach that let $100 and something thousand worth of uniforms get mildewed and stuff, had to destroy all of them, So evidently we have problems with these buildings with mildew, mold, and everything else. So, you're talking about $300 per player, $17,000 just for the 100 helmets. And so, we're talking a lot of money, but it needs to be, I agree, we need the local communities back involved in recreation, but we need a central location for this equipment to come back in and hire somebody that can take that equipment in and make sure it's cleaned up and put back and dried before it's ever put back in boxes and stuff. Dr. Johnson knows more about sports than probably anybody on here, and I know that equipment has to be dried and everything before it's packaged up, or Anthony too, But this, years ago, a helmet was probably $8 or $10 and stuff. Helmet's $135 now. I mean, it needs to be taken care of,
And Ms. Sumter, if y'all could look into maybe utilizing part of the administration building on the back side, it seems like, or any other properties that the county owns that's not being utilized. I mean, I know we have.
We can look at utilizing other property, trying to find some place for recreation to go in the equipment. And I'm not going to, when that look on my face was, you haven't seen the back of it.
Yeah, no, I know that.
That being said, then I know Dr. Johnson mentioned about the commissions on last week or the week before. So I do plan to get with you in the next week or so to discuss that, because I know I'm pulling bits and pieces. So I want to find out what the problems were before, what needs to be addressed, before I make any recommendations or suggestions, and also have some input from Mr. Williams too.
Per another source, Clio was winning. That's why.
It was told that we had a system in our basketball program and our football program. We had coaches that stayed constant. If Dr. Johnson coached the 19-year-old basketball team, I coached the 11, 12-year-old team. Coach McCollum coached the 13, 14-year-old team. When his team move up, I got him. He tell me what's going on, who good, who ain't good, and what you need to do. So it was a cycle. And parents, one of the things that our numbers had dropped throughout the county. If I have a child, boy or girl, 9 years old, first year playing, and he got to go play for a coach that he never seen, mom and dad never don't know who he is, they won't play. But when you in your own area, McCall, and them parents know Carl Locklear, they know the Mr. Williams, they know Vert Odom, they don't mind that child going because they can know to be taken care of. But when you take a child and from Blenheim, Clio, Wallace, McCall, and you bring them all to Bentonville for a coach that they never seen, don't know nothing about them, and I'm gonna trust my child with somebody I don't know, ain't gonna happen. That's why the numbers one of the reasons why the numbers are dropped. Cause Judge McCall over there, she know she ain't let her daughter go play with somebody that she don't have no knowledge of. I'm not either. Miss Pearl not either. We are protective. Now once we get to know Mr. Williams, and if he coaching a team, then coach, I know Mr. Williams, he's good people. You know, I know his dad, I know his sister, his brother, I play with them. So they gonna let the child play. Yeah. But if I gotta go talk to Mr. Wall, and I don't know who Mr. Wall is, the first time I see him, his pants sag, he got cigarette in his mouth, hey, how you doing? But then I know, come on baby, let's go. You ain't playing this year. You know, appearance is a big reason. Knowing who you playing for and with is a big reason. In Clio, if a kid can go to the bicycle and ride to the gym or ride to Bentley Park to practice, go ahead. Mom, I got practice. What time? 6 o'clock. I'm gonna go ride my bicycle. Gone. Mom, I got practice. What time? 6 o'clock. Where at? I'm in Blenheim. I ain't got no car. Daddy got a car going to work. But mama, son ain't with one car. You can't practice today. Now the coach gonna, where little Anthony at? He ain't had no way. Well, he can't play tomorrow night. We got to understand our culture where we at. When kids don't drive. Our youth is our future. We want state championship through and through. Every year we want state championship. You go back, we can go back right now and go 4 or 5 years back into recreation. And I guarantee our recreation was thriving and succeeding, and we win state championship 5, 6 years later. For the next 4 or 5 years, our high school team ain't gonna be hitting on nothing because we are in a dead spot. We're in a dead spot. The kid that was in 2020, if they were 10, by the time they got through, with recreation started back up, they were 13. They was in middle school. They done lost the early years of fundamentals. You know, so now they behind the 8 ball. The varsity program, they're gonna be suffering. You know, so we know it's a big task that you got. That's why we want to help you as much as possible to get our kids, young, middle-aged, get them back in the love of the sport of recreation throughout the whole county. It was a buzz when Clyde go to McCall play football, man, Carfield and C.W. Park was full. Oh, then Red Devil come to town. We gonna be ready to play. That's what we look for. Now, they got a game. I ain't going out there. Sure, everything in Benfield.
Yeah.
Everything in Lincoln Park. You know, it's a bitter taste that everything's centralized.
There are advantages in this.
Yeah, they are.
Being centralized. One of the advantages is if you do have a kid who's in a 10-year-old age range as well as a 12-year-old age range, because we're centralized, you're at one location, and that's easier. You're able to see his game and that game as well. Versus if we do spread it out, the 10-year-old may be playing in McCall, and your 12-year-old may be in Bentonville, and then you're still facing the same issue. Whereas one car, how do you get it both places? How do you see both games? So I understand what you're saying as far as the advantages of having a community league, but there are a certain level of disadvantages and things that work against that as well.
The same thing in practice-wise, you know. You're right, there's some pros and cons in everything. They got a two-sided coin. There's always good and bad on both sides of the coin. So, you know, but I said that's what we were saying, that what have worked when you got, as a director, you got 5 areas. When you have commissioners that you can say, Dr. Johnson, what's going on in Clio? What I need to do? What you need? You know, instead you go down there and try to hunt somebody down, hunt coaches down, whatever. You let them local commissioners do that for you.
I've been brainstorming the idea of setting our registration system. We have a registration system where you're able to centralize everything, where honestly you're able to register from wherever you have internet or smartphone device. So I was brainstorming the idea of setting up the different communities, whether it's Wallace or Clio. We're currently in basketball. Let's go, the next season will be football. So if we did want to register, then you would register for 10U possibly in Clio, 10U in Wallace, or maybe even a 10U in Bentonville that way. where you would know where you would be practicing and possibly were able to find those coaches that way, but you would still be able to go through us where we're able to accept the registrations as well as facilitate getting the uniforms and things out to people. Another thing would just be some of those disadvantages. I like the idea that Ms. Doris said of collectively getting together to kind of discuss what the advantages and disadvantages are to see if it'll even benefit us to go back to community league or to stay to do everything centralized. I'm pretty sure there's advantages and disadvantages both ways. Just depends on how we would like to do it going forward. I do know that if we disband the centralization, that I'm gonna need at least more manpower as far as maintaining the facilities. Because it's easier with us being at one facility, because I can be there and make sure that that looks good and that's properly cared for. But being in 4 different locations on the same night, that's gonna be a lot harder.
But what Anthony was saying too about the coaches and stuff, you know, we got to get role models for the coaches that people know. Dr. Johnson, Anthony Woods, and I'm a lot older than probably anybody in here. When I was playing Little League, my mama said, if I hear Amos Raspberry's name one more time, I'm gonna put a stick on you, because that was all we want to talk about. We ate our coaches up when we practiced and when we played, and we took them home with me, and we couldn't wait to the next game and stuff. We got to get that attitude back to where, and it's got to be these kids too. We got to get this phones and all this stuff out of them and get them back to playing sports and stuff, because a lot of them, when you ask them, you don't play sport? No, I can't give up my iPad if I play sports. You know, it's a generational thing that we've let the iPhones and the computers and this, every kid in the block's got better cell phones than we do. They don't want to play sports, you know. But sports is where you develop teamwork. Anthony knows that, Dr. Johnson. That teamwork is what you take and you carry it with you when you go on your job, when you get out of high school and stuff.
Mr. Williams, how are you utilizing the boards and commissions that we appoint? How are you utilizing those people?
So there are a few commissioners in which we utilize as coaches, and I'm also oftentimes frequently in contact with them. One of them being Mr. Tim and Clio. I think Mr. Willie Bright may be the commissioner for Brightsville. He's our coach is in constant contact with him as well. Those two gentlemen.
Those are only two you're using, is that right?
For sure, yes, ma'am.
Okay. But there are 8 appointed, and so I do want you to get the list from either Mr. Sumter and they can and the address, because there are some others appointed, and there's an appointment that no one has made, but there's a young woman, Inez, can't think of her name, but she definitely wants to be appointed. That's mean one of the board members have to appoint her, because there's no recreation for the women. There's no recreation that's for the girls, and that has come to my attention by one of those coaches. I know you're centralizing on that, but how many recreation teams do you have for the girls?
So we offer girls programming up to a certain age. So 10U, you can start to play with girls. Under that is co-ed pretty much. What we find is that we don't have many girls looking to register and play. And then if we are able to outfit, let's say we are able to find 10 girls to compete, to form a team, we may not have 10 girls in a surrounding area to compete against. So they end up having to either be co-ed or we try to add alternatives. And the budget that I proposed, originally, one alternative for young ladies would have been a volleyball club. That's what I was looking to offer for young ladies as well. Currently this summer we're offering cheerleading associated with our basketball program. If we go with football, we're gonna offer cheerleading to associate with the football program as well. So I was aware of there wasn't many young ladies participating, but honestly that is a nationwide thing. Even in other counties and municipalities I've been in, one of them, we were able to have 2 girls teams, so they basically competed against each other the entire year, which was like about 8 weeks. But we're realizing there's not as many young ladies who are looking to actually compete. So we do offer it to be co-ed, but if we try to offer just a women's team or just a female team, we may not have enough to actually compete.
But there is a possibility you're going to try to build that program.
Correct, I have proposed alternatives. One of them being volleyball, a volleyball club, where we wouldn't have to create teams where you're competing against someone else. It would just be a club where you learn the sport and you compete against the people who actually come. So this week we may be on teams, next week we may be against each other.
So we don't
We'll be
offer
able to
soccer? Do we offer soccer?
We do offer soccer as well, and soccer is one of our co-ed sports as well.
Okay.
So baseball and softball are one of the few sports that's actually split, where we have a softball team and then we have baseball teams. In basketball, we tried the registration. There's just not as many young ladies that register. So most of that is co-ed. The few young ladies that we do have play, it's co-ed that way. And then I also had a few adult offerings that would have been co-ed kickball as well as co-ed softball.
That's why I think your localization is gonna come into
Right.
big play.
And
Because
please
if-
get that list from them, because there are 2 members on there can tell you if there's some women who really want to be involved.
Okay.
I can let you know now. There are some women who really want to be involved in the sports program in this county.
Okay.
Well, Darius, you can tell all of council wants to back you up and help you out. You got our support. Let's see what staff can get going with the money we've already got allocated, and we'll have and let's schedule a follow-up recreation meeting after we get.
I do have a question in regards to football. You said about the football equipment. So I just talked to a vendor recently, and he currently has some of those supplies that we were talking on hand, but the inventory may not last but so long. So if we're actually wanting to do tackle football, I would need to reach out to inquire about those helmets and equipment before another league does, and they aren't available. I've reached out to 3 vendors. 2 of them said they would not be able to order a drop of equipment before October. There's one vendor who said he has it on hand, but that may not be the same a week from now, a month from now.
And I did say prioritize, you know, if that's a critical situation, maybe put that at the top of the list so that we can go ahead and allocate some money towards that.
Mr. Chairman, it's my opinion that, just like Mr. Russ said, we've already allocated the funds. He should just make the purchase orders, turn it into Russ, and make the purchase. You've already been authorized $260,000 today. I mean, you know, we did it before. I mean, before you got here, the money's been there. So all you do is make the purchase order, turn it into West, and make your purchase.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, we need to move along to the budget presentation.
Very good. I have an updated PowerPoint here. There's very little that's changed since the last discussion. Just to give you an idea, there's an additional supplemental payment that we're receiving from the state, and that is for the magistrate's office, and then of course that's assigned to the magistrate and the assistant magistrates in terms of compensation. We do have reduced costs for the sheriff's office. There's the elimination of the lieutenant's position, $64,210. However, we've got some upgrades to existing positions. That cost is $16,740. So there's a net savings of $47,470 with the $2.5 million increase in use of $330,203 in fund balance. The general fund is balanced at $14,173,618. I'll go ahead and go through the presentation. There's very little change here, so this ought to be fairly quick. The only modification here in terms of revenue has to do with the additional $15,000 that's coming from the state. You've seen this chart before. It's pretty much the same as where we were the last time I presented. You can see that we're authorized to increase millage by 8%. We're only talking roughly a 2.5% increase, 2.5 mils. actual millage rate would be on the tax notice for the county operating, EMS, county geodet, rural fire, and NETC. See expenses, $14,175,000, revenue $13,680,000, $165,000 tax increase, $330,000 deficit that would be made up by use of fund balance. The request, the only change here is the lieutenant position has been eliminated, and instead the position upgrades are taking that place. $16,740. We still have the 4 law enforcement vehicles in there. Total budget request, $96,740, in addition to what has already been presented. So with that level of expense, in the revenue, without the reserve, we're using about $330,000 worth of reserve. Salaries and benefits, nominal change here. Overall, total expenses, $14,173,618. That's just kind of a breakdown, just looking at it in terms of a chart. Or again, that's looking at doing a little analysis on our salaries and benefits, what those costs are. And this is the change with each department. I'm just looking at it in terms of the chart. And it was very the sheriff will make this announcement with the award of the SRO grant from the South Carolina Department of Public Safety. That's a really big deal. These are some of the things we talked about before. Obviously, we've got the use of $250,000 from the former Carolina Bank project that can be allocated to recreation projects. That pretty well does it. I did include copies of the various purchase services, the contract services, the professional services, and then the services through QS1 or Public. I know there's some questions about some of those contracted services. I'll be glad to address those. And then I also did, I'm sorry I missed running the printouts for the special projects. I'm going to pass those out. I know that you did not have those as a part of your documents, but probably the most significant, I don't know if there's any questions that you might have regarding some of the contract services. I did make copies of certain invoices. In some cases, we did just to become familiar with exactly what it is we're acquiring in terms of contracted services. I don't know if there's any questions regarding that. I'm glad to discuss those.
I'm glad you brought this, Mr. Park, because when you gave that package,
Right.
I saw some of these things in that package, and I knew that the other ones probably did not see those things. And for me, I just said, I hate that they're just looking at it now, but I've studied that package to see that, and I questioned some of those why I wanted some better explanation on what were those services and why were we using those services. And I want to say up front, I do think it's time that we look at what type of services, and I can't speak for anyone else because they're just getting that package. But I do, when I'm looking at some of the services that we're using for some of the people we're using, for some of these contract services, how are we awarding the contract? Are there bids for it or what? Tell me what these local things
Well,
are.
typically what happens when you're talking about professional services.
Right.
We'll go through a request for proposals. And if, a particular professional service is being provided to the county, as long as there's no significant change with what it is that they're providing and we're getting the type of quality service, we continue from year to year
to just use
that
it.
particular vendor. And there's some vendors, for example, that are very specialized. To give you an idea, we use a specialized law firm, Parker, Poe, Bernstein, and anyway, they've got a background with economic development, environmental law. They actually represented us with the suit that the county was involved in with the mega dump, for example. That is one of the firms, and obviously having their expertise and then their ongoing understanding of the county is very beneficial to us. So obviously that's a firm that we continue to engage in contract with. And they also assist us with a number of economic development issues. For example, they work kind of as a liaison with the South Carolina Department of Revenue on, whether it's tax credits or, fee in lieu, various abatements. Those are complicated things. So we need that type of expertise. That's just one example of a contracted service that we continue to utilize on an ongoing basis.
When I saw their name with solid waste, tell me how.
Right. Solid waste, that is a representation of the county, and that case was versus J. Davis and USA Waste. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it was the last waste company that we had before we had this one, where they presented with a lawsuit against us for breach of contract.
Right. So, and I pulled that particular invoice because, the amount was like $13,000.
I saw that too.
I wanted to, make certain that, to understand exactly what type of services that they provide.
Yeah, they had compromised on it, was like 50,000.
That's correct,
Judge McCoy is here. Are you satisfied with your budget and the projections that you need to run your department correctly?
Honestly, I had no idea about my budget other than what I get through the expenditure report every month. I just looked in the paper and saw where our budget was cut $8,500. I had no idea about it. Don't know where it was cut from. No one talked to us about anything. And my office has made a lot of improvements prior to the previous judge. I'm not sure what he used. Apparently he used a whole lot of funds. I feel I should have been talked to find out, because I have different projects that I've been on and want to do for the community. As far as forums, I want to be able to present things in the newspaper bi-weekly, every 3 weeks maybe. So I don't know what the budget, where it's cut from. I have no idea.
So you haven't seen your budget?
I have not.
Well, we were told that all the department heads met with administrator and staff, and the budget was gone over.
Not to my knowledge.
Is that right? Can you,
Unless there's another department head in program.
well, what's going on now, Mr. Park?
I know that I'm taking the lead from the prior county administrator, and I was not aware that he hadn't met with good employee here. So, and there again, what the instruction that was given to me was to review the contracted services and other expenses, and based on the prior year, make any reductions to those expenses, and there again, we've got about $135,000. And that's based on where we were at in the prior year. I know that a lot of these departments, obviously, maybe their expectations have changed. They may be implementing different things. I had one day to do this. So I didn't, I admit I did not reach out to anyone to ask this because, I know what my instruction was, and, initially what the discussion was 5 mils was okay.
Well, here's my problem. I understand what you're saying, not to interrupt, but excuse me. Whenever you give us information and the past administrator,
Right.
when you give us this information, we count on it as being accurate. So when you tell us that you met with all of the department head, well, it was told to the department head met, they came up with the budget, and this is what we are looking at. This is what we're looking at. So we're trying to make decisions on this, and it just don't seem to be accurate.
Well, I can say this, we sent out spreadsheets, we sent out budget requests to every single department, and I'm guessing y'all received the.
Did you get that?
I got the budget request, and I requested money that I'm not getting.
Did you get a response back?
I mean, I talked to Ms. Sumter about some things, but there was nothing set in stone as to this.
You got all of our budgets covered.
I mean, that's fine, but I mean, I didn't know where. To me, I felt like department head should have been known where you cutting money from. I had no idea.
Total percentage.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, finance should be the one in response to these questions anyway. But so yeah, I had no idea. I mean, I understand budgets got cut everywhere, but
Well, I think that, one thing that what we know, we all agreed upon as a council that to cut everybody 2.5%, but we also agreed by the council that come January, if a department need more funds, they be allocated, we go into a line item and supplement accordingly. Because one of the things that we all agreed that we do not want to raise taxes to a certain point. We don't want to go to the fund balance to a certain point. So, and like I say, it was unfortunate that everybody did get the budget cut, and with the Audible did not know, where, but now that she do know, she knows she got cut, but she don't know the dollar amount, and so the other department heads. But when they come back to the council first of the year, after the first quarter, the first 6 months get by, and we say, okay, this is where we at, we saved a little bit here. If you need $8,000, $5,000 to finish out the year, we as a council can approve that. But we know we got to approve this budget before 8 more days.
You got to.
Well, not we ain't got to. That's the wrong terminology. We would like to. We would like to approve the budget, and we know we can satisfy everybody. Every department head would come here door to door. I want mine back too. I want mine back too. But we did make a understanding to Mr. Park and Ms. Sumter to cut as much as we can, where we don't have to go too much in the fund balance. Get the mill down to 2.5, and they done that. And then if any department comes in and we are in good position, and they could come in with a request, and we can, address that at that time.
But I want to echo Mr. Strobel because we depend on accurate and truthful information coming to us so we can make, decisions about, what we do as council members. When we're told that, A has happened, and we basing our decision based on somebody telling us that A has happened, and we come to find out that A hadn't happened, what does that say about us? A lot of time, the past administration ran this county like it was a good old boys club. And there was no transparency, there was no information being discussed, there was no information being presented to council. And we've taken, other people's words, and we look at where we're at right now. We got to do better as council members on having these hard meetings, these long meetings, and looking at this stuff. I know it's not the most sexiest thing to look at. I know it's not the most intriguing thing to look at, but we have people's lives at stake, literally. We stand in the gap for people who elected us to come up here and represent their interests to the best of our ability. When we don't have the information that we need, when we have people not being truthful, when we have people slanting information to their own benefit, we get to a situation like this where a department head don't even know what her budget looks like. She's seeing her budget the first time when I tear a piece of paper off to present to her. That's unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable. We should have been heard from Mr. Williams. We should have been heard from Judge McCord and all other department heads. So when we making decisions about this money that's coming from taxpayers, we can be confident that we've made the best decision that we can make. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me as a taxpaying citizen, not as a council member. It's unacceptable to me as a taxpaying citizen to sit up here and have to view this process from the inside and know why my county is in this position that it's in. Because I'm sitting up here and looking at the process, and I see why we're in the position that we're in, because I had a bird's eye view of the process. I ain't have to ask nobody why Marlboro County in the condition that it's in. I see it firsthand, and it's unacceptable to me as a taxpaying citizen that's going to have my taxes raised. I don't care if it's $3 being raised. If my taxes are going to be being raised, it need to be for the right reason, not because we haven't done our job or we haven't gotten truthful information from our leadership to ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Shame on us for not scrutinizing this process before then. Shame on us for not being asking questions. Shame on us for not being presented with the accurate information. Shame on us for not taking our position seriously, and it's affecting our taxpayers.
Mr. Parr, you relayed to us that when we started on the issue with the budget, we went back and you said that every department acted on their budget. Some things they cut, some things they said they needed more.
Yes.
And Probate Judge's office, how is it that you are the only one in the county that didn't know that? I mean, didn't know that you needed to work with Mr. Park and him on your budget?
Because no one spoke, no one met with me to tell me how this budget even works. From the little bit of knowledge that I do have, it came from my dad. So when I got the budget sheet to say if I needed more money, if I needed to cut money because I saw where it wasn't being used and I didn't think I would need it, I put it on my sheet, but nobody ever still got with me to say anything, whether it was approved, whether we were, I just never knew anything.
You said you did get it, though. You did get.
I said that, yes. I
Okay,
did.
okay.
I had that spreadsheet that everybody got to say whether they needed an increase or a decrease. I did.
But we were told every department head met with.
No, I didn't.
That's what we were told.
We were.
That they were met with, not that they received a sheet of paper. We told that every department head met with the county administrative department so when we're finding out this is not accurate, how accurate is this information then? I'm not even sure this information is accurate.
I'm looking at this right now. You've given us this for today, and the only reductions that I see to balance the budget, just by looking at this paper, it would be the sheriff department losing a lieutenant, and the magistrate, assistant magistrate.
This is not cumulative. This is just since the last presentation.
Yeah, just since the last presentation.
I can bring the prior presentation that included the various cuts.
I mean, but you're saying.
I mean, this is actually the 7th budget meeting that we've been.
So you're saying since our last meeting, you have managed to cut $47,000 off of this to bring it down to 2.5 mil. But
And we were at 2.5 mils last.
right, we was at 2.5 mil last, so whatever
It's
you
just a matter
done.
of- we're using less fund balance as a result of this cut.
I just want to be able to look at this information and know that when you tell me something and you did not tell us this, the prior administrator did, that this information is accurate and we can make decisions on accurate information, not misleading information.
Well, the budget is a prediction and a projection, so it's not gonna be 100%.
But Mr. Chairman, all due respect, that's not a budgetary item. When you tell a whole council that you have met with every department head, that's a statement. That doesn't have anything to do with projecting.
And
That's
that-
something that you did or either you didn't do.
And Mr. Chair, all due respect, all of you know, I asked for that. I said I want to meet with every department head and every elected official because I wanted to hear. Y'all told me that we've been relying on our administrator and the finance team, and I understood that. But I made that clear. I wanted, even when I addressed Mr. Parks last week, I said, I'd like to hear from the treasurer and the auditor because I take them as being the expert. I wanted to know. And I know that we keep going over and over, but I said that because I know that I did some checking for things myself. I wanted to hear from them, wanted them to sit there and tell us what they did in their budget. All these departments has come in here. None of them have really come to us and told us nothing. It was just presented to us. That's why I don't feel good about it. I made it clear. I'm like you, Dr. Johnson, and everybody else. No, I did not feel good about this budget because I didn't like the way it was presented to me.
Mr. Parr, did we say that all of them met with Ron? Or met with Ned, or did the department heads get their information and then take it back through you?
From what I understand, what I know happened, we sent the budget request sheets to every department, and we received the information back, or we contacted the department if they didn't respond back. And in some cases, they didn't respond back, and they said, well, just give us what we had last year.
But they did.
That's basically what the process.
Now, Mr. Parr, I can't let that go. So, because somebody said, just give us what you gave us last year, without you as the finance director saying, look, let's sit down and say, did you use the funds that we allocated last? But what I'm saying, that laissez-faire attitude is why our county in this position. For you to say, just give me what you gave me last year, that's not doing me as a taxpaying citizen any good. For you just to accept somebody just say, give me what you gave me last year, even if it's not the accurate number. These numbers mean something to some people. These numbers going to mean a 2.5 tax mill increase for our tax dollars because somebody said, just give me what you gave me last year.
It's a 2.5 mil tax increase because we lost 8 mils.
No. I'm not going to accept that. Yeah, we know we lost, but what you just told me, somebody was tell you to just give me what you gave me last year, tells me that you all haven't done y'all due diligence with this budget. So if you're not doing your due diligence on your end, how do you expect us to do our due diligence on our end to ensure that if we are raising taxes, we are raising taxes because it's a dire necessity, not because somebody failed to do their job?
Mr. Parr, the budgets that everybody sent back into you and that you sent back to them, they took those budgets, and if they didn't use part of it, didn't they tell you we didn't use the $8,000 for postage this year? We can get by with 5. Didn't they reduce the budget? Didn't every department in the county reduce their budget?
That we received, a response from. They tried to analyze the numbers, and if they didn't need it, they didn't request it. And I think everybody did a reasonable job when they requested their funding. I look at, I was just watching TV last night. Florence County, or actually Florence City, which is a really prominent location, very robust area. They just raised their tax millage by 5 mils. I mean, that's a significant increase.
Ms. Park, can you give me one
Well, that county
example?
is 137,000 people. So when you see, but you're talking about us with the 26,000 people.
Yeah.
So every time y'all tell me this, and I understand what you're saying, but for 137,000 people, and let's say at least 100,000 of them live in the city, in this county of Florence. Sadly for us, we have a lot of people in our budget that don't even live in Marlboro County, don't even pay one dime of taxes. But those who are making $10,000 and $12,000, they live in this county and trying to get tax money from.
Can you give me
Mr.
one
Park,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Park, I think
Can you give me one example of?
we still overlooking a very important fact, you know. The budget was balanced last year, right?
Yes, sir.
We used $5 million increase last year. We went into the reserve like we normally did. Everything balanced and stuff. Since last year, we lost 8.5 mils of money, which was $548,000 that we are not taking in this year. And we're talking about a 2.5 mil increase, but yet 8.5 mils we lost that we don't have that money for. You know, I don't what people don't understand about that.
But Councilman Alden, in looking at how we engage in this process now, did we need to raise 5 mil last year? We might have raised 5 mil last because we didn't do our job, because finance didn't do their job. We raising taxes not as a needful thing. We raising them because we're not doing our due diligence. I know we lost Mohawk. Quit talking about that. Nothing is going to bring Mohawk back. Nothing's going to bring that back. But the fact of the matter that we're looking at this process and we are trying our best to ensure that we are doing the best by our taxpaying citizens. And when we have a department head or an elected official say that they haven't met with the county about their budget, they received a sheet, they turned it back in, but we were told that every department head, not they received the sheet, was met with and went over their budget. That information is not truthful.
He just said that
Councilman
wasn't true.
Steen has.
He just said that wasn't true, Dr. John. He said they didn't meet with every department head. He said that they returned it to them with the deductions in the areas they didn't need and the increases were there. He did not say that they met with every one of them.
Councilman Steen has it for you. He asked.
County administrator says. And I don't know if I gave that to you verified or not. Okay, when the sheets are returned, we do a look at their last year's budget, their current sheet, and that sheet is, the lines match up to every one of the lines that are in the budget. And then what their projection is. And those are the things that I can definitely attest to if we do. And whether at that time you're looking to see if there's an increase in a certain line or a decrease in a certain line. And just like I said, that's after everybody's stuff has been received.
So the projections for 2023, 2024 initially is what they used last year. So, I mean, that's what they used last year. I mean, so that's what you would go off of. You know, even Judge McCoy, whenever she said, this is the budget that I used last year. So if that's the budget they used last year, with inflation and a reduction what we have to the county, if we cut her budget, if she used it last year, and you know, we said we're going to cut it now, you know, is she going to be able to operate efficiently in 2023, 2024, if that's what she used the previous year? That's my concern, is whenever we're cutting, and you know, and hearing everybody's, we've asked to cut to a 2.5 mil increase, and that's what was done. But realistically, whenever you used it this previous year with our bare bones, everybody that you ask is needing more just to be able to operate, and then we reduce it, and we had 800,000 leave. I mean, I don't know how you get more whenever they need more just to be able to operate, or need where they're at just to be able to operate from previous year for the next year with no increase. We've cut it, so that means they're going to have to do less next year than what they did this year. I mean, that's just, I mean, if you take $10,000, $20,000 out of a budget, you're going to have to do less next year. The audit come back, it was clean, we used a certain amount of money. I don't know how you can get back to.
We ended up with a $165,000 increase in fund balance, which, you know, when you're looking at, you know, $15 million general fund operations, you know, $165,000 difference, you're only talking about 1%. So we were very close. And I think we do a good job in in estimating revenues as well as expenses. So that's part of, I think, the role that we have in the budget process. We receive information from department heads and elected officials, and then we have to make some decisions based on what you're telling us in terms of, very clearly at first, we said 5 mils, and everybody was okay with that. Then I bring the budget balanced at 5 mils and said, no, we're not willing to do 5 mils. It's got to be 2.5. You need to go back and cut any of the expenses based in there again. I cut them based on what the activity was in the prior year, and most of all that was in contracted services, which we heard a lot about the concern about using contracted services. So those contracted and professional services, if they weren't used in the prior year, we went ahead and we made cuts to those departments. I did not reach out to those different department heads and elected officials. There again, I had one day to go ahead and finish that so that you could end up getting that budget document so you had time to review the information. And I wanted to make certain that happened.
So you identified exactly what cuts were from contractual
I did
services.
that $135,000 in cuts.
Councilman Stroman, I think you had something to say.
So you're saying that $500 that was cut from the probate office was out of contracted services?
It was in contracted services.
Okay. So can you give me one instance to where a department head asked for you to cut them? You said they told you to cut where they didn't spend. Give me one instance where they didn't spend and they told you, go ahead and cut that.
Well, postage is probably a pretty good item. I mean, that's a pretty
Postage.
common item.
Postage. Okay. In every department?
Not necessarily in every department. There were departments that had reductions, particularly in postage. So many of the things now are done, electronic. And so we don't have as much, cost associated with mail.
Are there any other questions?
I stepped out, but I want to ask a question concerning, I don't know, what, Public Works. I know Public Works. And the question I have is, last week I heard about contracted services cut the line for certain programs. Can you tell me how we use the lawn care for certain programs? What contracted service are we using to cut lawn? Then I want you to tell me, what does our Public Works Department do? And what is their jobs and responsibilities?
Well, if we take a look at their contracted services in Public Works, we can see, let's see.
You cut it by $10,000.
All right. Well, there's a firm, Palmetto Law Enforcement.
Is it on this worksheet that we got?
That's on this worksheet. And there again, things like rain, others, probably other circumstances determine how frequently they have to cut. I don't have a listing of those cuts that we made in those various departments. We covered that at last week's budget workshop.
So who is the contract person in Public Works that do the service with Public Works?
Who's the contract? Okay, for example, I'm seeing in Public Works, we've got for contract services, we've got Law Enforcement LLC, and apparently they do, that's Palmetto Law Enforcement LLC. They do some contract cutting for Public Works. Let's see if there are any other professional services in Public Works. Of course, we've got like termite and pest control, for example. We have, we have welders, I believe they probably provide some type of, maybe some type of supply.
Let me just ask the question of Ms. Sumter. Tell me what the job and responsibilities of the people in public works.
They are to drag the roads, cut bushes, remove trees, and put down rock, which is like a pressure run. They do the same mow the lawns at the welcome signs. They mow the grass for our green convenience centers. They put down towels. They also do maintenance on some of our county buildings. And they also mow the lawn at the EMS buildings. I'm thinking that coming out of law enforcement may have been a company that also had a specific assignment through public works. Meaning if it was, because they also have to cut the bushes and pick up any trees that this company may, and I'll check on them, but they may have had some type of lawn equipment that they use specific for a job.
My reason for asking, I know that the county has spent a lot of equipment money to do certain things in the county. I know you just invested last year in a backhoe. So how are they utilizing county equipment to take care of the county needs? Do you know?
But now the backhoe and stuff, all of that is mainly for your rock, and then also for cleaning out your ditches and stuff. There's some ditches on the roads that we maintain, we have to clean out.
Okay.
All right, and they also assist with doing the towel from time to time.
So the backhoe is mainly to help clean out ditches that the county,
On the county maintained.
on the county's maintained road. Can you give me an example of what area that would be?
Most of those roads are dirt roads that we maintain.
Let me give you an area down on west, south, on State Street. Give me some areas in there, are in those areas.
Any areas on State Street.
Okay, well, give me some areas.
Okay, let's say if we're going to.
Salem Road, let's get Salem Road there, because they have ditches there.
Okay, but Salem Road is a state maintained road.
But they have a little small road that goes out the state road, from Red Hill down there.
Is it a dirt road? Mm-hmm. Okay, that dirt road, if sometimes you might get, beavers and different things that climbing up the ditches and stuff, they go in and they try and clean that stuff out to get rid of any nests and stuff. And also, they may have to use it depending on whether or not, how the water's running, when we have rain and stuff, to put back down the rock and stuff.
It's good to know, because my area has been talking to me about how they're using this county equipment. So I'm going to be calling Public Works and contacting your office about that. My reason for saying that is I don't know how we're utilizing the county equipment for people in those small areas like that have that dirt road. So is that specifically what Public Works will be doing?
That's not specifically.
Well, but that's one part of the thing.
As long as it is a
County
maintained
road. The green signs I know are state, but if it's a blue, I know that's their own property owner's sign. But then the other S signs, that's county road. Is that right?
I want to say the S signs is the state and the green signs are ours.
Green is kind of.
Okay, so all those green signs that I see, if my residents live in District 4, they have a green sign, I'm going to be getting those roads again, and I'm going to ask them to make sure they contact Public Works. Okay, but the second question I have in Public Works is, look at the salary in Public Works. The salary that's in Public Works now, does that include the salary of the past Public Works Director? Because if it does, that's on a $13,000 difference in that salary.
It does not include exactly what the Public Works was, director was, the previous one was making, if I'm correct. But it includes everything that, I think what we estimated a Public Works Director salary would be a current one, along with the other ones.
Okay.
About 10 people in that department.
So if the 10 people are still there, is that right? How many people are working?
Well, 9 minus the.
9 people are still
But in
there.
the budget, you would include that vacant position.
So let me tell you what I did. I took the salary that you proposed, I minus out the salary that the previous public work director was making. I took that $106,000 out, bringing us to $310,000, and I took that $13,000. Are we proposing to bring the next director in for $93,000?
I don't think that's a salary.
Because that's the difference in that.
100% positive, I don't think that's a salary.
It was his salary.
I will.
The sheet that we was given, that was his salary.
That's a salary.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm talking about the salary. You were given the proposed salary, our comp sheet, so that's what I have to look at. That's
Okay.
what our comp sheet says, that's what we're proposing for the next person.
Well, we want to look at that because Florence, I've already checked with Florence, director, which is greater than our county. They don't even pay their public director that.
But number two, I want to say that that person was not titled as the public works director, but as the public services director. And in their absence, I will say that not only was managing public works, but the other entities of the jobs with the grants and the airport, they were doing more than just directing public.
Are there any other questions?
No.
All right, is there a motion to conclude the workshop?
So move.
Second? Second. All right, all in favor? And unanimous, we will conclude the workshop. And we'll immediately start the called meeting, the 5 o'clock called meeting. I call this meeting to order. Councilman Woods, would you give us the invocation?
Once again, Heavenly Father, you allow us to assemble together. Father, we continue, Lord, to keep our hands in your hand, Lord, in everything that we do. Father, as we conduct another meeting, let us put Marlboro County citizen and the thing we do first and foremost. We hope we can stay in line with your will. Father, we ask this in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, moving along to ordinance 836, a ordinance to adopt the annual budget and to make appropriations for Marlboro County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. This is the third reading.
I think we probably need to approve the agenda first.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that.
Okay, I suggest.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? You abstain?
I am abstaining.
Okay, 7 and 1 abstention. Any objections? All right, you got the count? All right, moving to ordinance 836, an ordinance to adopt the annual budget. To make appropriations for Marlboro County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. This is the third reading. Is there any conversation, or I know we've had some conversation. Is there a motion to?
No, I want some conversation, please, sir.
Okay, I will let you start.
Mr. Clark, thank you for everything that you've done. But there was no way that we could have looked at, even if we think about for the January coming, to look at these salaries is for us to look at, to have any increase for those people who are making less than 15, those 28 people. There was nothing, no possible way to help them. None whatsoever. And I posed a question in an email concerning item number 11. The budget is clearly going to say that no raise increase for no one. Is that what it's going to say?
It's going to, we can amend that budget to say that we will not be giving a cost of living or any increases. And then, as I said before, if you all decide that you are able to do that during our budget year, we have to bring it back to you to approve to do that.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think we discussed the last time we met, adding a line item for the administrative assistant to the economic developer. We were supposed to add that back to the budget. We had taken that position out. However, knowing that we will be hiring an economic developer and they will be needing an assistant, that position need to be funded. So we need to add that back into the budget as a line item.
I wish that would have come out at the workshop.
That comes, we had already discussed it last time, and we were supposed to add it in the call meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Is that, what is that budget? I don't even have that.
We haven't had one in, what, 4 years? We had no, even number of middle, assistant in 4 years over there. That's how it was probably, that's how it would be. We had to go back 4 years ago.
It's not for us to set, it's for personnel to set salaries. We don't set salaries as a collective board. However, we don't set salaries.
No, I said, but we gotta put the money, allocate
We have
that
to
kind of money
allocate it, but it's gotta
in
be
budget.
based on what she suggests, not what we wanna put in there.
No, I know that's not what we're gonna put in, but we still gotta put a dollar amount in the line item.
We were just, Mr. Chairman, for me, we just had asked staff to cut the budget to 2.5 meals to get out of reserve at a certain amount. Now we're going back and asking again. We were at 5 meals with a balanced budget with probably everything in there, and then we're coming back again, and now we're saying we need to add back into it. Either we've got to get on the same page to be able to give staff direction to put it in there, you know, at the last minute or whatever. I mean, adding $15,000, adding $20,000, taking $40,000 out, you know, it has an effect on everything whenever you actually submit it. So, you know, either we're going to just throw the budget process out the window, or either we've got to come up with a consensus to move forward. You know, staff had asked what direction to move in, and, you know, we, at the last meeting, you know, we just said, give the information from here, out of what it was here. We didn't say reduce the budget, we didn't say increase the budget. No direction was given to staff at our last meeting for them to do anything. And so here we are back again. You know, now we're saying we need to increase because of one position. My stance has been from the very get-go, I thought the 5 meals, even though it was 5 meals, we've heard from one elected official to say we've cut a budget previously. We know it's going to cost more. You know, is what's going to happen whenever we're, you know, at the end. And, you know, we've heard from one, as Dr. Johnson said, well, you give her a budget and she sees it's cut because council had directed staff to cut the overall budget of the county. Now we're telling them to add it back in.
What I would say to that, you know, we got some work to do. As a council, as a county, we have work to do. Let's get off our behinds and let's begin to operate and work for this county and not siphon from, because that's how we've been doing, siphon. Mr. Park, that $47,000 that was saved from the cuts with the sheriff department, and you didn't take any meals away from that. Can that money be used if for proposed, I'm not sure what salary direction, you know, that position, that won't throw this budget all the way off because you already?
What that did was it reduced the amount of reserve that was required. So obviously, if we add expenses back to the budget, it would increase the reserve. The last time we presented the budget, our use of reserve was a little less than $400,000.
So we'll still be within that range. And let's say, I'm not sure what salary will be proposed for this economic development director, assistant. But I don't see it being more than just $47,000 that was allocated. So, you know, would that be appropriate to?
Let me give you an idea.
I would think if maybe just adding one more meal back
Let me give you an idea of what it
across the
should
board,
be.
and have that taken out of the surplus. Take that 30,000, well, it'd be 65. And then add.
Probably saying
salary.
about $60,000. So if you said 60 and then added to what we're doing right now at 330 would be about 390,000 in reserve. So if you wanted to make that in terms of amendments, we could go ahead and revise that. You could still vote on Thursday with that adjustment.
Repeat that.
So,
Adding the extra millage to the,
Well, adding $60,000 to the existing budget to cover salaries and benefits, to cover that additional administrative position for economic development.
or we could just keep it the same and add the millage back and then take,
Administrative assistant.
Well, what we're effectively doing is just using about $60,000 more in reserve than what we're reflecting in this particular document.
Would that still put us in range of what's
Would still put
expected?
us in range, because that's what we're trying to get. Within 400,000, we're about 375,000 last year. You know, we're about 390 now with that change.
and it's quite possible we won't even need that till January, so it would be only half a salary, and maybe the economic developer coming here might get by the first year without one, but
Yeah, that's another option to actually,
Mr. Chairman, if I'm in order, I make a motion that we amend that proposed budget to add that $60,000 that will come out of the reserve fund to keep that 2.5 mil increase.
I second that motion.
The discussion before that, with that 60,000, would that be on the high end or would that be the middle range?
I think that includes fringe benefits in that as well.
that will be the high end.
Probably on the high, but it would include.
But that would be a range then?
Yeah, we have to set up, I would have to look at the range. And
Right.
looking at the range, I am thinking, of a certain number, but I would look at the range of what we already have off of our chart that we can utilize.
And do you utilize any of these salary ranges from this book?
At times, but, you know, we created a chart that was given to everyone, and that would be what I do want.
Make sure let's look at this book, please.
Okay, so there is a motion, all in favor?
I need to do what?
To amend the budget for a $60,000 increase, if needed,
Cost of living?
for the salary of economic developer assistant.
What was
All
it?
right, so we got 6 to,
Oh, what was
who
it?
opposed?
What was it? The vote?
This is for the amending the budget for the
You said
surplus.
something about cost of living. Okay.
Right.
That's in that ordinance then. See, I'm not voting.
Okay, so all in favor, again? Okay, that's 6 to, any opposed?
Not opposed.
1 and 1 abstention.
So now you have to vote on the budget.
Okay, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve the 2023-2024 budget. I think we've had enough discussion on it. I think everything is balanced as well as all the proposals that Mr. Park and them have presented to us. And I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the 2023-2024 budget.
That ordinance 838, 836, is that what you're saying?
836,
Okay.
yes.
I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? All right, it's 5 to, who opposed? 3, 5 to 3.
5-3.
Okay, motion carries. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Abstention? Did you vote? Ms. Long?